Welcome to another episode of the Wild Strength Podcast, where we talk about all things wild and all things strength and everything in between. Today, my guest is Clint McInnes. Did I say that right?
Yes, you actually did. That was really surprising.
Perfect. I crushed it. I am really big on like grammar and either spelling things or pronouncing things really the right way. So I definitely thought long and hard about how to say your last name.
Yeah.
Anyways, Clint McInnes and his walk-up song is Bring the Ruckus by Wu-Tang Clan. And we'll see how far we can get into this before Spotify cuts me off.
Boxing and the Wu-Tang sword style.
Yes. I'm totally okay with this song.
Oh, good.
I always have. I've been telling multiple people I'm going to start a playlist of like different people's walk-up songs. And I feel like that's a really good one to have on there, where I've had some like slow, sad country songs. And you know what? That's the best part about those playlists is they go every which way. Anyways, like I said, my guest is Clint. I'll let him introduce himself a little bit, and then we'll kind of see where the conversation goes.
My name's Clint McInnes. I grew up in a little town in Utah, lived in the same town all my life. So that's kind of odd to me, but also hilarious at the same time. 40 years old and just enjoy being outdoors. I'm a tattoo artist by trade, and I also own a clothing company. And just really a big time outdoorsman. Backpacked for all of my life, done that kind of style of being outside, and lately it's been more hunting than anything. So making that transition into more of that side of things, and that's been fun to learn too. So yeah, I've got 3 kids ranging from 17 all the way down to 16. You heard that correctly. I have twin boys that are 17 years old, and my daughter's 16. So
Nice.
They're getting to the fun stage of life because they're getting to the point where I can just kick them out. You know, it's not that bad.
That's got to be the best part. So you said you've kind of backpacked all of your life, and then only kind of recently it's turned more into hunting. How many years have you been hunting?
So this will be my 5th season. This year will be.
Nice. Okay.
And so not that long. Still trying to figure it out. I've done a lot of hunting in that time. I tend to jump in really far in the deep end of the pool. I don't dip my toes in anything. So when I get into something, I really get into it. So yeah, I've hunted multiple states now and multiple weapons as well. A whole 2 weapons. I've went from muzzleloader to archery, and now I try and only do archery, but I'll pick up a gun every now and again. I'm not afraid of it.
And then you said you kind of backpacked all your life. What did that look like? Just going on camping trips, backpacking trips? Is that kind of just the gist of what that was?
Yeah. I was heavily involved in scouts growing up, and our scoutmaster was amazing at getting us outside and teaching us survival skills, working on those kinds of things all the time. He was very outdoorsy, and we actually camped once a month, every single month from the time I was probably 12 to about 18. And that was including through the winter here in northern Utah. So we knew how to winter camp, and we love camping in the snow just as much. That just kind of led me into more and more of that. So I've done multiple 50, 100-mile trips with just what's in my backpack. We've kind of been all over the map as far as car camping and backpacking and everything in between.
We oddly have very similar like backgrounds and like getting into the outdoors. I was in Girl Scouts. I ended until I was 18, and honestly, regretfully so, because I feel like I would have gotten to do way more. My family was not big into the outdoors, so kind of once I left Girl Scouts, it was like, all right, now what? Now what do I do? Now how do I get outside and do things? But then also started hiking, backpacking, camping. Like that was my draw to the outdoors before I got into hunting as well. Now I haven't done the big like 50, 100-mile backpacking trips, but those are definitely still on my list to do. And it's funny, I meet so many hunters who, if they're not hunting, they don't want to be in the mountains, they don't want to be backpacking, they don't want to be hiking. And I'm like, you have all summer to be doing these incredible things and still be in the mountains, and you're choosing not to because you're not hunting. Like that makes no sense to me.
Yeah, it's weird. I'm very goal oriented, and my first couple of seasons hunting, if I had been out and hadn't like fulfilled my goal, which is like punched a tag, right? Everybody would tell me like, "Oh, you're missing the point of hunting." And I'm like, "You realize I can hike around the mountains the other 11 months out of the year without heavy stuff on my back, like a gun or a bow? I can do that all the time. My goal while I'm out
Yeah.
here is to punch a tag
Yeah.
and to feed my family off of this. Like, it's not to just be out here in nature. I can do that all the time." And I do
Yeah.
enjoy being out there in nature, but I'm very
Yeah.
goal oriented, so I get stuck on that one.
No, yeah, and I can relate to that. It's funny because I think I was talking to someone the other day, and they were kind of talking about how a lot of like older people, like men in their 60s and older, will like just leave their family to go hunting, and it's just an excuse to like be with the guys, right? But in 10 years, they probably haven't harvested anything, and that's their chance to just go and like have fun with the dudes. But when I'm out there, one track mind. I have one goal in mind, and like you said, I can spend the other 11 months out of the year. And I try to hunt like this year. I did hunt most of September for archery elk here in Colorado, but then did continue to hunt throughout other months. I went to Texas and Arizona and some other states just to continue hunting because I started hunting in Texas where you can hunt 4 or 5 months out of the year, and then even archery, and then coming here to Colorado, I was like, I only have 1 month to do this. This is the worst. This is the
Yeah.
worst thing that could happen. So what was your draw to hunting? What kind of initially made you want to do that?
So I actually grew up on a farm, and so we didn't have to hunt. We had
Mm-hmm.
cows out the back door, so they're a lot easier to catch when they're in a
Oh,
pen like
nice.
that. So I didn't grow up
Yeah,
learning
for
any of those
sure.
things, but as I grew up, the older generation, the farm got sold when my grandpa passed away, and slowly dwindled down to nothing. And then it was, well, I know where
Mm-hmm.
my food comes from, and I have known where my food comes from for all of my life. And then all of a sudden now, like, I'm going to the store to buy these things, and I'm going to the butcher, and it felt weird
Mm-hmm.
to me, and so I didn't like that. And I wanted to take more of a part in that by also not having to take care of cows 365 days a year, because that's not an easy life either. Don't get me wrong, I would do it again
Yeah,
in a
not at all.
heartbeat, but I have a small backyard, so I can fit maybe a half a cow back there. So yeah, I felt like hunting was
Yeah.
one of the next best things, and it got me outside more with a purpose. So I really wanted to dive
Mm-hmm.
into it. And I've got friends that do it, and it seemed really interesting to me, so I dove right in. It was weird as an adult going through hunter safety. You got all these like 10 and 12-year-old kids around you, and you're like, oh, I'm 35, no worries, no big deal. So I made my daughter
Yeah.
actually take it with me. I was like, yeah, we're going to do this together.
Oh, no.
And she didn't even want to hunt. She just wanted to, at first, she didn't want to hunt. But yeah, she just wanted to hang out with me more. And she was willing to go through that class with me. And so, yeah, jumped into it and just started learning all I could. And I grab onto every piece of information I can. So I'm always looking for that. Even now, even a few years deep into it, I'm constantly on the hunt for more
Mhm.
information about hunting.
I don't think one, and I feel this way about all aspects of life. You can never know enough, and the concept of mastery is like elusive to me. I don't know that I ever want to master something because then I have nothing to learn about it anymore. So yeah, I can appreciate that mindset. Did you have like a mentor early on that you kind of leaned on to learn from, or were you kind of like, I'm gonna figure it out for myself and like books, watch YouTube videos, or was it kind of somewhere in between there?
Kind of somewhere in between. My now ex-wife, her and I started hunting together, and both of us were brand new to it. So it was us figuring it out
Yeah.
together, and that was kind of something that we wanted to do together and be new at it. Like we
Mm-hmm.
really wanted to just experience that, like I said, together, and that was fun. But one of my really good friends, Kyle, he has hunted most of his life, and so I did lean on him quite a bit,
Mm-hmm.
but we did a lot of YouTube. We did a lot of books. We did everything that we possibly could. When my ex wife shot her first deer, which was a first for both of us to be around, we literally had videos saved
Yeah.
on how to cut up a deer and field dress a deer. And we're watching those. Like, we'd watched them multiple times, but it was also like, yeah, we're going to watch this in the field too and try and get
Uh-huh.
this right the first time. So, yeah, it was a mix of
Yeah.
everything. And it still is some days. I feel like it's constantly like, hey, what am
Mm-hmm.
I doing here? I'll text people while I'm out hunting, and man, I don't know what I'm doing, so come help me.
I That's so funny. I had a bear tag this past year in Colorado, and the number of times I watched a how-to video on YouTube on how to skin a bear and quarter a bear, and like I wanted to make sure I skinned it properly because I wanted to be able to keep the skin and do something, or yeah, keep the hide and do something with it. And I was telling someone like I could have probably skinned a bear in my sleep because I watched that video so many times going into that season that I was like, but how else was I going to learn, right? Like, I can't just
Yeah,
go out there, find a bear, shoot it, and learn that way. Like, thankfully, YouTube is a thing, and there's people out there that are teaching you that way. Because I could even have a mentor, and they could tell it to me in words a million times, but I'm a very visual learner. So if I don't actually
yeah,
see it happening, and had I been successful in filling that tag, I would have been screwed. I would have been dragging this whole entire bear through
yeah,
the woods trying to figure out what I was doing with it. And that could have ended poorly.
yeah, definitely.
um,
There's always multiple ways to do these things too. So we watched all these videos on how to cut this deer up, and we did just that, what the video showed us. And then when I killed my deer, my friend Lyle was with me, and he's like, "Do you want me to show you this other method that I use?" And I was like, "Yes,
mm-hmm.
by all means. Like, let's do that method too." And so yeah, there's so many different ways to do these things, and some of them are right and some of them may be wrong, but that doesn't mean that there's not multiple right ones either. So it's kind of fun to learn someone else's method to do that.
Yeah, for sure. There's quite literally different ways to skin a cat. um, yeah, that's when I learned about different people's hunting styles, I'm always so interested in, for example, elk hunting. Some people really like calling and they're successful calling in elk and bugling and all of that. And then other people I know fill their tag every single year and they don't know how to call an elk. And
Yeah.
like you can be successful in so many different ways. And I find so much value and importance in learning these different ways because then you kind of basically like the tools in the toolbox. You can kind of choose what tools you do and don't want to use and what tools do and don't work for you. And then that's how you become successful on your own versus kind of being dependent on someone else. So you said your daughter did that hunting education with you. Does she hunt with you now?
She does now. She started hunting the season before last, so she's now hunted. She's been on two of her own hunts. And her first year, she tagged out on a spike. Second year, we hunted a much harder area,
Nice.
which was my bad. It still got us out of the house, but it
Yeah.
was just a lot harder area, and we put in a lot of time outside, and that means a lot too to get to spend a week with her with no phones, no TVs, no interruptions. That's cool stuff, and we learned a lot about, hey, sometimes a deer hunt can turn into a coyote hunt really fast. So we may turn the truck around a couple times.
Nice. That No, I think that's a good way for like, and even whether you're with family or with friends or whatever, like being out in the woods and nature, no service, camping, kind of living off your back is like an incredible bonding experience, no matter who you're with. And you get to know, like I hunted with friends a couple of times this past season, and you get to see a totally different side of that friend. And whether it's good or bad, you're seeing it because that's really who they are when some things are stripped away from them. And so I think that's a really cool like social experience, but like a bonding experience nonetheless. Where all have you hunted before?
So I've hunted Utah, Texas a couple of times, and Idaho so far, and like just always looking to branch that out. We hunted pigs down in Texas. That was actually the first thing I killed with my bow, and that was a blast. We had a super fun time. I want to keep going back down, but I'm also chasing bears up in Idaho in the spring and trying to figure those things out.
Mm-hmm.
And
Oh, nice.
this year I've got a friend that I can actually go up with. Last year we went up and did it. Two guys who have never done it and tried to get it done. It turns out it's a little harder than we thought, but getting somebody to show you the ropes. We've got a guy who hunts bears, so we're going to go hang out with him for a few days and see how he does it when he tells us to do it, and it's not just us kind of winging it. And so, yeah, but I'll hunt anywhere that they'll let me. I'd love to go hunt whitetail back east, and and yeah, I just want to get out and do more of it.
No, I would agree entirely. I was gonna ask. I had Redbeard on here as well, Jonathan, and he was talking about how, and I don't know where he is, where he lives in relation to where you live, but he was saying like kind of in the immediate area there are a bunch of mule deer,
Yeah.
and then he was like kind of getting, depending where you're at in Utah, it can be more challenging or less challenging, whether it's finding bigger bucks or even just finding bucks in general. But I hear Utah's pretty good state overall for elk and mule deer.
It's not. It's terrible. So do not spread the rumor
Oh,
that it's any good.
okay.
How dare you?
Right. I'm
Yeah.
got I got you.
Come on. Redbeard actually lives probably about 40 minutes from me, and we hunt together. Yeah,
Nice.
he's
Okay.
he's one of the guys that I
Nice.
trust
Yeah.
to go out there with me, and he's not my main hunting partner, but he's definitely on the lineup of guys that I trust to go out
Mhm.
with me, and he comes and shoots with us every week in the winter archery league. And but yeah, it is, and it's such a wide range. I mean, it's like Colorado in the same sense. Like you go in the northern part, and you've got a ton of Rocky Mountains and trees and super steep stuff, and then you go down near the southern, and you've got more of the red rock and kind of cedars and stuff like that.
Mhm.
So it can change depending on your hunting style and how you want to hunt them. It's kind of fun to get out and see that difference too. You can hunt huge mule deer out in the middle of the lowland or the highland deserts out here, or you can turn around and go and hunt them up in the dark timber on super steep cliffs and everything in between. So it just depends on how you want to go about it, and how much work you want to put into it, and what you're after in it too.
That's very true. So if you're listening, Utah is a terrible state to hunt. Do not go there. Do not try to draw tags. Stay out of
Yeah,
Utah. Terrible place.
don't move here either.
No, I think that's really
Definitely
cool
don't
because
move here.
yeah, yes, don't move there. No, I think that's super cool because I guess I didn't, when you say it, it makes sense, and I didn't really realize there is two totally different terrains that you can hunt there in Utah, and it's really just dependent on either what your preference is or maybe what exactly you're hunting, and kind of similar here in Colorado, although I think we do have like a plainsy part of the state, but it's not as heavily hunted obviously as the more Rocky Mountain
Yeah.
area. But even here, I'm still so new to the like Western style hunting that like similar to things you've said, anytime someone tells me something, I'm a sponge and I'm just trying to absorb all of it and learn all of it. And there's so many different opportunities to hunt, which is why I moved out this direction. But yeah, so many different opportunities to hunt out here, and it's honestly overwhelming in a system that is very hard to learn.
Yeah. I think, the funny thing is, like, we consider it that we've got so many opportunities, and then we turn around and look at like states with whitetail or something like that, and it's like, oh, you guys have 12 tags a year? Cool. I have one, maybe, if I'm lucky to draw out that year.
Yes.
So I have one chance. All right, like
Yeah.
that's it. We don't usually
Yeah,
name
I
our deer
was.
because we see them one time.
Yeah, you don't chase the same one for like 5, 6, 7 years in a row because you might not
Yeah.
ever see that deer again, which is crazy to think about. Yeah, I started in Texas, and I'm still a Texas resident. One, I do not ever want to be a Colorado resident. Two, I don't have to pay state income taxes, so I'm going to stay a Texas resident for as long as I can.
I like it.
But I got, I think it's 6 tags there, maybe even more that you can fill. And then I know you can go to Georgia and get like 12 total deer tags.
Yeah.
And so anyone I talk to out east, they're like, why are you not, who's never hunted the West? Now people who have hunted the West
Yeah.
understand. But they're like, why are you not filling tags? Why are you having trouble putting meat in the freezer? And I'm like, it doesn't work that way out here, unfortunately.
Yeah.
And to be fair, another reason I've stayed a Texas resident is for hunting, and not that anytime I go there it's guaranteed, but I do kind of keep that in my back pocket for like, I didn't fill any of my Western tags this year, but I was able to go back to Texas and harvest 2 does. So it was like, I have a chance there. I have more opportunity and more chance there. But I think and obviously hunting in Texas is entirely different than hunting out east, where they're hunting public land. They're able to like watch a buck for years and hunt from a tree stand and all of that. And I think that's a totally different style of hunting also that I'm very interested in learning.
Yeah, I get more and more drawn to it because the opportunity, right? Like even going and hunting pigs like was a blast to me, and you can do that 365 days a year. So I look at that
Mm-hmm.
and I'm like, cool. Like even if I don't fill a spring bear tag, sometime I can make it down to Texas and hopefully go stack up a few pigs and still put some meat in the freezer. And one of these days, I would like to figure out who's got some land I can go and hunt some whitetail on, down in, whether it's down in Texas or
Mm-hmm.
Georgia or anywhere. Even up in the Northeast, you go back to some of those states like
Mm-hmm.
Michigan, you can get a crazy amount of tags. And I start looking at these things, and it's like, oh, okay, like there's a lot of opportunity out there, and I need to take part in it because I have a lot of hunting to catch up on. I just turned 40
Mm-hmm.
like a week and a half ago. I know that's really old, but I started hunting at 35. I have a lot. I have 20 years of hunting to catch up on, and I will catch up on it because I will take part in every opportunity I possibly can.
Yeah, I think that's awesome. And I meet so many people who, especially, I imagine it's not just here in Colorado, it probably is prevalent throughout the West, who are just the September archery elk guys. And they don't hunt any other time of year. They don't hunt any other animal. And that's cool. Like I think there's absolutely nothing wrong with that because they know their shit when it comes to archery elk hunting. But
Yeah,
I do think like my friend James, he'll talk about how like because he's hunted different game, he's done different styles of hunting, that he's able to kind of tie all of those together. Like for example, his elk that he put down this past year, he shot it from a tree stand, and like most people aren't thinking about hunting elk from a tree stand, but he was like, I know this area and I know that was my best opportunity and my best option to put an elk down. So I think there's so much value in going out and learning other hunting styles, even if it's just for that, to bring it back to your archery elk season. If that's all you do, go out and learn a different style just to maybe bring something back. But also, if if I'm calling myself a hunter, I want to hunt year round. Like this is something that I want to be. It's a lifestyle ultimately, right? And so I'm gonna find, like you said, you can hunt pigs in Texas 365 days a year. If you want to shell out lots of money, you can even hunt exotics in Texas 365
yeah,
days a year. Or getting into, like, I want to get into waterfowl hunting so I can kind of do that in the winter months. But there's, if you do it the right way, you can hunt all year round.
yeah. I think a lot of the people that I've talked to, that even guys that grew up hunting, I've talked to them, and they're like, "How did you get two tags in Utah?" And I'm like, "Oh, I just play the odds. Like that's what I'm looking at." And they're like, "What do you mean play? Like, what are you talking about?" And then I'm like, "Oh yeah." And then we went up and hunted Idaho in the spring, and they're like, "Well, how did you draw that tag?" And I'm like, "Oh, it's an over the counter tag. You can literally walk up and buy one for multiple species too, not just bear." And these
Mm-hmm.
guys don't have any idea. And I know that that's available like all over the place, not necessarily just in Idaho, but you start to look at, hey, there's way
Yeah.
more opportunity than just your one tag per year or one tag every few years. Um, Last year was the first year I haven't drawn a tag, and it was my fourth year hunting, and most people look at that and they're like, I've been hunting Utah all my life. I only get a tag every 5 years or whatever. And I'm like, I don't know how you do that because that sounds a really terrible way to hunt. I would not do that.
You're doing something wrong, buddy.
Yeah.
And I do. Some people do get really specific about like what units they'll hunt in, and like I can kind of see where that might be the case. Where if it is a draw unit, maybe you have to have X amount of points for that unit, and that's the only unit that they'll hunt. But then once again, you're limiting yourself. That's you have to spend X amount of years accumulating those points to hunt that specific unit. When go out and hunt an over the counter unit for a few years also. Maybe you fill the tag, maybe you don't, but if you fill the tag, you didn't go 4 years without filling it or without hunting. So yeah, I never understood, like I am a very like you said earlier, you don't just dip your toes in, you go all in. So I'm the same way, but I think that's almost too much so, right? Like only hunting one time a year, one specific game, animal, and like one specific unit that you get to do every couple of years. Like, I don't know that that's the hunting I'm looking for.
Yeah, yeah, and I definitely think it's. I don't think that I could do it because I think I would get so discouraged on not getting a tag or whatever that looked like. Even only
Mm-hmm.
hunting once a year, like that's really hard on me. And the
Mm-hmm.
day that my season is hung up here in Utah for elk or for mule deer or whatever tag I have, I'm already like, okay, when is my next hunt? When can I make some time to go to Texas in the winter? Can I make some time to do a spring hunt? And where can I go? Can I go to Hawaii and hunt axis deer? Whatever it looks like, I'm already looking at that next hunt. And it's not the next August and September. It's what can I do in the next few months? Because
Mm-hmm.
I cannot wait that long. I don't have that long.
That makes two of us. It's yeah, I definitely don't understand the waiting all year. And then they spend all year preparing for it and then the month is done and then they miss it for a year and I'm like different strokes for different folks. Like I said, it's a very highly specialized hunter and they're very freaking good at what they do and typically those folks almost fill their tag every year, right?
Yeah.
Where someone maybe like me or you who are still kind of learning the tools of the trade and all these different styles of hunting, like maybe I could be more successful if I just honed in on one thing, but I also don't want to just hone in on one thing. Not yet anyways. I don't feel like
Yeah.
I've learned enough yet to just hone in on one thing. But I kind of want to transition the conversation to Spark Adventures. You mentioned you own a clothing line, but I don't believe you mentioned what it was called. So is Spark the name of the clothing line and then Spark Adventures is separate from that?
No, Spark Adventures is the name of the clothing line. And it actually it came around because I would have clients come in the tattoo shop and they would see me out fly fishing for the first time or going hunting for the first
Mm-hmm.
time or getting invited to go and do these things that my other clients are inviting me to or my friends are inviting me to. And they would come in and they're like, man, you're always going doing
Mm-hmm.
these adventures all the time. Like, I wish that I could go and do those things. And I'm like, well, you can. Everybody can. Everybody has this opportunity. You may
Mm-hmm.
not know where to start. And I just have friends that are really cool, and they're like, Clint, hey, come with me and do this. They almost force me to go do cool stuff. It's terrible. Don't have friends like that. But
Terrible.
yeah,
Yeah.
so I started thinking about it, and I wanted to make a clothing line because I always made hoodies and t-shirts and stuff anyway, and I wanted to kind of force that into a clothing line of its own actual thing. And I'm like, man, like we do have all the this opportunity for these huge adventures in life, and why am I not taking new people out on these things? So why don't we, instead of making a profit off of this, why don't we dump that profit back into giving someone an adventure? So I started talking to a few friends of mine, and one of my really good friends, James, he's a fly fishing guide here in Utah, and he's probably one of the best fly fishing guides in Utah. And he said, "Dude, like, let's take somebody fly fishing." And I still consider myself new to fly fishing. I'm a few years deep on it, and I'm like, "Yeah, let's do it." So our first adventure that we gave away was a fly fishing trip, and I want these to be
Mm-hmm.
100% on my dime. If you have to travel to me, I'm going to pay for that. If we need to rent equipment, I'm going to pay for that. I want everything to be you just get your experience and your adventure that you can tell your friends about and that you can tell your kids about or whatever. So that was kind of how we started, and I wanted to do every adventure possible, which is really hard because I don't know what I'm doing half the time. So it was all right. What's the next thing? And I always have to be. I'm not a very good planner. You can ask anybody that knows me. I'm very much like, well, tomorrow I'm going and doing this. It's not, hey, in three
Yeah.
months I'm going to go and do this, and I've had to learn how to do that a lot better because of this.
Mm.
It's really hard. Like the second adventure that we gave away was a trip to the Utah Total Archery Challenge. Well, I had to buy tickets to that
Mm-hmm.
months in advance. And then I also had to let a winner know at least a month in advance so that they could get the time off work or they could get stuff handled on their end. So this takes me actually shifting like who I am as a person, so that I now have to plan for other people. I can't even plan my own life. Why am I planning for other people? This is a terrible job. I'm an idea
Yeah.
guy.
Yeah, why did you sign yourself up for this?
Yeah, I'm not smart. I just am too dumb to quit, actually. So yeah, we just want to get people out on adventures, on whatever we possibly can. It
Yeah.
doesn't really matter what it is. The third adventure that we gave away was a long range shooting trip. We took out a woman
Mhm.
who has rarely shot rifles, like as in barely shot a rifle, and we shot a mile with her.
Mhm.
And to a person who doesn't
Oh,
know a
cool.
bunch about guns, that is like, oh yeah, I shot a really long way. To a person who knows a little bit about guns, they're like, holy words, uh, and
Yeah, that's
they're like
crazy.
blown away by that. And she's like, oh yeah, I shot a mile. No, 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 you don't understand what you just did. That bullet takes almost 4 seconds for that to hit. Do you understand how fast a bullet moves and how long that took to get there? Like, that is a
Yeah.
really far target, and it's a really big feat. And she understands it now, but going into that, it's like, oh yeah, we're going to shoot a really long
Mhm.
way. But we just want to touch on everything. Like, I wish that, and we'll get it to the point where we can give something away once a month, because I would love to do that. But right now it's like once a quarter, and I'm okay with doing that. Like, I love giving this experience to people, and it's just awesome to be able to say, hey, don't worry about a thing. We're going to take care of all the planning. We're going to take care of everything else, and we just want you to show up with an open mind and have a good time, whether you've done it or not.
No, I think that's super cool. And it kind of like two major things like when people want to do an experience like total archery challenge or fly fishing or shooting long range rifles, or I saw you did like a snowmobiling thing, which that's super fucking cool and I want to do that at some point. But I think like people always have, I'm going to say an excuse, but like it really is. Maybe it's on their bucket list to do, or maybe it's something that they want to do. But like time and money are usually the two things that keep people from being able to do these experiences, to try these different things that they want to try. And so you've kind of eliminated both of those for people, right? So like maybe time, like they definitely have to try to get the time off of work. That's definitely a big part of that. But like if they can get a couple days or maybe even just a day if they're local, depending on like what the adventure is, like if they can just get a day off of work and they don't have to fund that for themselves, like you've, whether, and what I'm about to say, I don't know if this is intentional or not, but you've sparked this like adventure for them, and hopefully that continues to spark this like adventure mindset. Because I know for me and maybe even for you, like we mentioned, we were both in scouts early on, and like being exposed to that early on, you continue to want to have those experiences. And I kind of believe that to be true for most people based on just conversations I've had, that you have this really cool experience and then you just continue to be drawn to that experience.
Yeah, the name Spark was actually super intentional on that exact thing. I want to spark something
Okay.
in your life, whatever that may be. And
Yeah.
maybe the guy that we took fly fishing never goes fly fishing again, but he's like, man, I want to go outside more. I want to go and hike more, whatever that may be.
Mm-hmm.
We really want to
Mm-hmm.
spark something in your life, and it's not just about like, yeah, I can take the money out of this. I can take I can't take the time out of it, but I can take the planning time out of it to where you just show up, and that's great. But I also want to get to the point where we take away, like, another barrier of entry to these things is not knowing where to go. If I don't know the first thing about fly fishing,
Mm-hmm.
if I call one guide, he may be a terrible guide and I don't know the difference. Well, cool. Now you have James, who we've worked with
Mm-hmm.
in the past. You can call him and you know that he's reputable. You know that he's going to set you up with the right equipment, the right way, at the right time. And you know that you're in good hands. So we want to build this network of people, of no matter what it is. If you want to go on a snowmobile adventure, we can get you set up in the right direction with the right people and say, hey, here, let's go do this together. or maybe you go with that person by yourself and you're in good hands. You're going to get taken care of. So we want to take all of those barriers of entry out of those things. Um, so even if you don't win a trip with us, there's still an easier way to get outside and go and do these things if you were wondering about doing them, if you were curious about it at all. We want to make sure, hey, maybe you've never shot a mile and that is on your bucket list. Cool. We got a guy that you can do that with on any given day of the year. It's wild to watch someone shoot that on a windy day, but this man does it on a regular basis. And stuff like that is super fun to us. But I get the opportunity to do it all the time. I need to share that a little bit more with everybody else.
Yeah, no, I think that's so cool. And kind of like you said, that guy might not ever go fly fishing again, but he also might not have ever experienced being outdoors in that fashion, right? Like being in the river or wherever it was that you guys were fishing, and like being in the mountains, and like depending on where he came from, maybe he comes from like a big city and he's never been in the mountains like that. And I think just to eat, like I said, even so much as experience the outdoors in any way, whether it's through fishing, whether it's through hunting, whether it's through hiking, whether it's through any shape or fashion, you are continued to be drawn by that. Because, and I don't say this just through personal experience, we see in research as well that being outdoors is like creates just the flow of dopamine in you, and people want to continue to be outside, and there's so many like health benefits that we get from being outside as well. And I know like if they just have this really cool experience in the right way, they're going to continue to chase being outdoors. Like you said, you may not ever go fishing again, and she might not ever shoot a mile again, but like to continue to like push people to be outdoors, I think ultimately is kind of what you're doing here, like in a more broad perspective. And
Mm-hmm.
I have such a like passion for that, is encouraging and pushing people to be outdoors just because of the health benefits that you get from that.
Yeah, and I'm on the same plane. Like we weren't born to stay inside all the time. We weren't born to be under fluorescent lights all the time.
Yeah.
We should be outside way more than we are. And I know you've felt this, but you go on a week long hunt where you see the only indoors thing you see is inside your tent or inside your truck. It'll change how you feel for the next 2 months from that week long experience, whether you're
For
waking
sure.
up at 4 a.m. to hike out
Mm-hmm.
or whether you're waking up with the sun because you stayed up super late trying to locate elk or whatever it is, you it changes like everything inside of you for the next few months. And I'm constantly chasing that, and I want other people to realize like, oh, we do need to be outside more. uh, I can't even think of an
Mm-hmm.
adventure where I would give it away where it's an indoor adventure. I don't think that that's ever going to happen. I want them all to be
Mm-hmm.
outdoors, and I want to go and do bigger and bigger things. One of the things that's on my list, and it's not going to happen tomorrow by any means, but one of the things that I do eventually want to give away, I want to go and cage dive with sharks. And that's something that
Hell
you're
yeah.
not really going to get every day. And it's not because I want to go and do it. That terrifies me like a lot. But to have something that's that big in life and that epic, that's what I want people to see. Because even if it's not something that um, someone thought about doing, I guarantee if I called you up tomorrow and I said, hey, go and get your passport, we're going to go to South Africa and we're going to cage dive with sharks, even if you'd never thought about it before, you're probably going to tell me yes, right?
Count me in.
Exactly. So I want to introduce as much adventure possible. And like I said, some of them are going to be, hey, we're going to
Yeah.
go backpack in Moab. You've probably never seen the backpacking trails in Moab. Let's go do that. And there's a lot of adventure here around Utah, but we want to eventually build this into something that's huge that maybe you couldn't ever afford to go and cage dive with sharks. We're going to take care of it for you. We're going to make sure that you have the adventure of a lifetime, whether it's cage diving with sharks or backpacking in Moab or going on snowmobiles and getting lost in some powder.
Have you ever gotten someone who won the giveaway and they were like scared to do what it was, or they just maybe felt indifferent? Like, have you kind of faced that challenge with people of like, oh God, I don't know how this is going to go? Or do people generally
No,
just like dive headfirst and go after it?
the woman who won the shooting, long range shooting, she was kind of apprehensive. Guns are a little bit scary to people who aren't around them all the time. Totally understand that
Mm-hmm.
apprehension,
Mm-hmm.
and she was a little bit apprehensive there. But everybody else has been pretty like, yeah, this is awesome. Like, I'm so pumped to go and do this. I would imagine as we start to get into bigger adventures and a little bit scarier adventures, um, I may face a little bit of apprehension, but that's where my personality comes in. Uh, Even if you're not dumb enough
Mm-hmm.
to choose to go and do it on your own, I'm going to make you feel like you can go and do anything. I'm going to make you feel like you can go and run through a brick wall if we need to, because I want people to have that belief in
Yeah.
themselves, whether it's scary for them or not. I really want people to experience this life in the fullest amount.
I think that's awesome. And yeah, I think the bigger the adventure, the more apprehension you might face with some people. But I also think people, and you might find this out as you start getting into more different ones, but maybe the kind of people who are, and for those who are listening, the way you get entered into these giveaways is simply just by purchasing something on Clint's site, and I'll kind of let him drop that later on at the end of the podcast. But I can only imagine that the kind of people who are intentionally entering in this giveaway by buying your gear is because they are drawn to adventure. And like I said, either they never really have and they're looking for that first kind of like break in experience, or they have already been exposed to a lot of adventure and they're just looking for something different that they haven't already done. And it's something that they're excited about. But you might come across one or two people who were like, oh God, I didn't think I was going to win, but I just thought this was a cool shirt and I'm a little
Yeah.
scared.
Yeah, that's actually kind of everybody's response is like, no, I just wanted to buy it because it was you. A lot of people are supporting it because it's me, and that sounds weird to say. I don't like saying that out
Yeah.
loud, but they say it, and
Mhm.
I'll take it. I love the support
Yeah.
for sure, but in the same sense, like be ready for an adventure if you ever buy anything off of my website, because there's a possibility that you may get dropped in somewhere that you have to go and do something that puts you out of your comfort zone a little bit.
I think that, and I'm really big. Like I can talk to a wall. Like I socialize. I'm the biggest social butterfly you'll ever meet. And so I think another really cool way to meet people is what I'm going to say. But like we also kind of know from research that like you create bonds with people by doing like challenging things with people. And so like maybe the snowmobiling, like that could be really scary. There's some really bad snowmobile accidents that go on. And so like for you to go out and do that adventure with somebody else, like you've probably created a lifelong friend out of that. And maybe it's not your best bud that you're texting every day now, but like that experience kind of bonds you guys together. And I chase those kinds of experiences where I'll for sure go out and do things on my own, but that shared experience, whether it's with someone you've never met before or someone that you've known all your life, and that adventure with them, like that to me is an unmatched feeling.
Yeah, and that actually brings up a really good point into kind of the other side of Spark, which is we do these community things. So far, we've done a camp out in, and not everybody is camped in a tent in late October at 10,000 feet, but it gets about 35 degrees in the middle of the night, and not everybody's camped in that kind of weather. And so we take these people out, and hey, this is what we're going to do, and we're also going to have some good conversations about like how we're leveling up our lives and how we can help you level up yours. So we believe in that exact same thing. We want to take 10 to 15 people out at a time and go and do these things. Go and hike in somewhere where there's snow in the spring, and we camp in that snow. Even though you may have never done it, we're going to go do it. We're going to push that boundary a little bit in a safe environment so that you know that you're not going to die, because we don't want to have to bury your body up somewhere. I mean, bring you back to your family, but we want to do that in a safe environment where you feel like you can go and do these things, because they are possible. It just takes someone else who's done it before you that has a little bit more knowledge.
Those community events are those ones that, like I know you said all the other adventures are generally paid for on your dime, those community events, or those just kind of like show up as you please kind of events?
No, so because we actually take care of food, we take care of all the logistics side as far as getting the campground set up, that kind of stuff. It is a buy-in, and we do expect like when someone buys a ticket to come to one of those things, they know that like they're just as obligated to show up as we are. So it is a buy-in thing because
Okay.
we take care of so many things on our side, and there is swag that you get. Like you won't be able to buy the hoodie that you get with our camp out. You can't do that. There's 15
Mm.
people that walk around wearing that hoodie, and outside of myself, and that's a really cool thing. And I love that kind of stuff, and we're going to keep doing that kind of stuff. It's you have to camp with us to be able to get this specific hoodie. And yeah, not everybody wants to get that hoodie, and that's fine. But if you want to go and camp with us, you get this really cool thing to remember that by, along with almost freezing to death in the middle of the night.
Yes, which there's totally worse things. I actually really love sleeping when it's really cold outside. I get the best sleep of my life. But for someone who's never done that before, it's like, oh my god, I might freeze in my sleep. Like,
Yeah,
what's the outcome here? No, I think that that's super cool, and the experience, the camaraderie you kind of bring from those community events, and kind of like I mentioned, whether it's hunting or hiking or just like going on an adventure with other people, especially in the outdoors in a setting like that, you really get to see a raw side of these people. And I to this day cannot explain to you what it is that brings that out of people, but like I almost lot like anytime I've known someone for X amount of time, or I even when I lived in Colorado, like back before COVID, and I was like in the dating world, I would almost love to go on like rigorous hikes as a first date because I'm like, you're gonna be getting your shit kicked in, and we're gonna have some deep conversations because just doing these hard things brings those out of you. And either A, if you don't want to do it, then I'm not interested, or B, you're a really boring person and I'm gonna learn that really freaking fast. But yeah, that setting really brings out a raw side of people, and I think not a lot of people get that opportunity to A, do that, and to B, see that side of themselves, not even just that side of others, but to see that side of themselves.
yeah, yeah. I've experienced that more lately than anything. Camping by myself and seeing a different side of myself. I've been in the wilderness for 7 days at a time without seeing a single person, and that's something that I never thought that I could do, just because of some internal fears that I had.
Mm-hmm.
And getting to know yourself at that level is a totally different ball game. And but yeah, like even getting along with other people, I know there's certain people that I don't ever want to take in the woods again. And then I also know, like my best friend Lyle, we've been in the woods for 12 days at a time together, and we're still just as happy at the end of that thing as we are at the start of that thing, and we're still making fun of each other just as much both days. And you learn how to cope with those things, and you learn who you can count on and who you can't.
Absolutely. And I kind of talked about on another podcast that I did, you going out there solo and going alone, whether hunting, backpacking, camping, whatever, you know that you can go as far as you are physically and mentally prepared for. And then at times when you're going with someone else, that might hinder how far you can go or how much you can do or how long you can stay out there, because that person may not be as physically or mentally prepared as you are. And so the benefit to maybe going solo is that you can push yourself as far as you're willing to push yourself. And then to be going out with other people, you either A, want to know that they're going to rise to the occasion to how far you're willing to go, or you know that they can go farther than you, so you want to be with them to push you more. Or you just have to accept the fact that you're with people who aren't as prepared as you are, and oftentimes those aren't the ones that you want to go back out with.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. And I can call it now before I even go out in the woods with someone. And part of that comes from tattooing and learning to read people really fast. But I know,
Yeah.
oh yeah, I like you could cut it out there, or you couldn't cut it out there to the people who even say that they're serious. And That's why my hunting partner list is very, very, very short. My backpacking and that kind of stuff, like if you want to go out and have a good time and there's not a goal that we're after, okay, different story. But my hunting list is very short.
Would be. And I kind of want to, we're kind of getting close to the end here, but I want to talk about, you are a tattoo artist, and I have had my fair share of experiences with tattoo artists because I have plenty. But is that something that have you always done that? Was it something that like you did something else and you were like, fuck this, I want a tattoo? Like, kind of where did that come from?
I hate this question. Uh, the only reason I hate this question is because it shows who I am as a person. Um, I grew up
Ah, I love
LDS, so
that.
tattoos weren't really a thing for me growing up,
Yeah.
but I was always involved in art. Even in high school, like failed multiple
Mm-hmm.
classes because I was too busy drawing. I didn't care about math; I cared about drawing. And as I got older, graduated and got like real jobs, quote unquote, I found myself
Mm-hmm.
just like, I don't like, yeah, this pays the bills, but it doesn't fulfill me. It's not that fun. And I'm missing my kid's birthday party for something that I don't care about. And I'm missing my kid doing this because I needed sleep because I work 12 or 16-hour days. So I turned around and
Mm-hmm.
I found tattooing as a way to make extra money. And then once I realized that I could be good enough, I started to make that switch. And how I actually got into tattooing, this is where the the weird side of me comes out. Like I said, I was always involved in art. I went and got my first few tattoos in like mid 20s, mid to late 20s, and I looked at probably my third or fourth tattoo and I said to myself, I feel like I can do a better job than this guy. Knowing nothing about
I
tattooing,
love that.
not knowing the first thing about how a tattoo is applied or anything like that,
Yeah.
I felt like I could do a better job and went and found an apprenticeship after that. Worked my butt off and I did it part time for about 2 years, and I've done it full time for the last 8 years, and it's been my
Heck
sole
yeah.
source of income. Yeah, so it's been fun. I actually get asked all the time, even now that I own my own shop, and there's me and my dog in there. I get asked all the time, like, "Oh, what do you do for your like? What's your full time job?"
Your
And I'm
real
like,
job. Mm-hmm.
what? You're in here paying me $150 an hour. What do you think I do for a real job? Like, are you serious? And it always
Yeah, no,
astounds me,
that's
and
so
I'm just
funny.
like caught off guard by it all the time.
Surprised me that people ask that, especially the ones that are in there getting a tattoo, and it's like, you came here for my profession, basically. So
Yeah,
why are you asking? I don't understand. I love that, and I always see you kind of post about like the client. Some conversations that you have like with your clients on Instagram, and I think that is a very intimate setting is the word that I'm going to use, right? Because you're
yeah,
putting a needle on this person and they cannot go anywhere. And so you're almost like forced, for lack of a better word, to have a con. And some people don't like how, like, I had one artist who, it was like a 5 hour piece, and I would ask him questions and he wouldn't say a word to me, and I was like, this fucking sucks. I don't ever want to come here again. But
yeah,
in the, like, I imagine someone like you and some of the other artists that I've gone to, like, it is just a long, full day of talking to this person and getting to know. You might not ever come back to this tattoo artist again. You might not ever see this person again in your life, but that, like, 4 to 8 is the longest that I've sat, and that fucking sucked. But like 4 to 8
yeah,
hours, and sometimes 2 hours, sometimes less than that, of sitting
yeah,
there with this person and having like such intense conversations. I feel like, if, by the way you post about it, to me that's fulfilling. Like, if I,
hmm,
but it's also a weirdly crazy setting to like trap somebody and force them to talk to you, which I wouldn't put it past me to do. But yeah, I feel like the kinds of conversations you can probably have are probably really like fulfilling conversations.
yeah, yeah. That's actually as I got more and more into tattooing, that was what I loved more about it. I really love people, and
Mm-hmm.
my clients when they come in, you and especially my regular clients, you better be ready for a conversation. You're not coming in to
Yeah.
read a book, and you're not coming in to put headphones in. And I'm not one of the artists that puts headphones in and goes to town. I want you to come in, and this is where the whole idea of the word spark came from. I want to spark something in your life, whatever that may be. It may be, hey, I need to get my shit together because I'm actually like really struggling with this one thing that Clint kind of pointed out. Because my autism allows me to just talk to people and tell them like, oh yeah, you should probably look at that. You should have that conversation with that person. Whereas a lot of people, I'll get people that come
Same.
in, and I've had men tell me stuff, and they're like, man, I haven't even told my wife that. And I'm all, cool. You should really have that conversation with your wife. And they come back and they're like, man, like sometimes they come back and say, man, we're getting divorced. Well, there's probably a good reason you had that conversation with your wife, because you guys were heading in different ways. And sometimes they come back and they're like, man, my marriage is
Yeah.
better than it's been in 10 years. And I love hearing either of those things,
Mm-hmm.
because it means there's something moving in your life, whether it's viewed as good or bad is
Mm-hmm.
indifferent. There's something moving, and that's what you need. You need to make yourself
Mm-hmm.
uncomfortable, and you need to have these bigger conversations and think about this in a deeper manner. Otherwise you're going to get stuck. You're going to become stagnant, and you're going to start to become a miserable person, and I hate to see that in life.
Yeah, I think it takes, and even just like prompting the right questions, right? And I always laugh. I never, or almost always, when I'm on a plane, like especially if it's longer than an hour and a half, 2 hour flight, the person next to me ends up telling me their entire life, and
Yeah.
it comes from one or two questions that I asked them early on. And I was laughing. I flew to San Diego this past weekend, and it was like the first time in years, honestly, that I didn't have the person next to me just like spill their life to me. And I was like, I kind of missed it, but also I kind of got to just like enjoy the flight for what it was. But I think, yeah, it just takes that, like, someone can tell me one thing, like, oh, I'm just like so stressed right now, and like my kid's bothering me. And then I'm like, well, what's going on? Like, how's work? Or like, how's this going? And then that just leads to this person's life story. And that's one of my, one of my favorite things. But we are coming up on the end here. And I do end all of my episodes with asking my guest, what does wild strength mean to you? So Clint, what does wild strength mean, or how do you kind of interpret that phrase?
um to me, it just means having this internal strength, that the mental fortitude of being able to face whatever's in front of you. It doesn't matter whether that's a long, grueling hike, or a hunt, or a test, or jumping in the water with sharks. It doesn't really matter what that is. Having that mental fortitude to be able to know, I know myself well enough to know that I can get through this, whatever that looks like. Sometimes that's a divorce. Sometimes that's losing a loved one. Um, Having that wild strength to know that no matter what, you're going to see that other side. And you know that. And so that's why you keep moving forward every single day.
I love that. It's one of my favorite questions to ask because I get like such a variety of answers, but it definitely, it's like fulfilling to hear that most people I have on here answer it in like similar ways in which I would answer it. So I think that was great. Clint, if people want to find you, if they want to buy your gear, if they want to go on an awesome adventure, where can people find you? Where can they buy your gear?
So the easiest place to find me is on Instagram, and you can follow me at I am Radness. I know that's completely ridiculous, but yeah, I am Radness, all one word. And the Spark Adventures page is at spark or at underscore spark underscore adventures underscore, because people take pages and they don't do anything with them, and I get angry about that. So that one's kind of more of a pain in the ass, but it is linked on my page too. And then if you want to buy any of our stuff, you can find it there, but you can also find it at sparkadventures.store. No .com on the end of that, just sparkadventures.store.
Perfect. And yeah, highly, if you don't have any Spark hoodies, I'm currently wearing this one and I don't think that I ever take it off. It is one of my favorite. I'm so picky about hoodies too. It's like probably an autism thing. The way they feel on my skin, I'm so picky about them. And this is like one of the softest ones that I've ever worn. So I love it. I highly recommend at least going to get a really soft hoodie. And yeah, you will be entered and for the chance to win any giveaway that Spark Adventures has.